beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to watch an in-depth tutorial of how I do my polygels at home. This is very beginner friendly. It's a cutesy Valentine set that I did that you too can duplicate at home. So stay tuned for the details. I also tried a new polygel and a new polygel brush, and so we'll get into the details of that shortly. I'm starting with tips already on my nails, and you are going to see the products that I use to prep. I started off with the Moravian Nail Prep Dehydrator that I ordered from Amazon. You can also use alcohol as a dehydrator. I really prefer the dehydrator over the alcohol because I have really oily nail beds. So this helps to adhere to the product. Next, I'm going to go in with the Protein Bond by Young Nails, the non-acidic adhesion. This is truly a good investment. I noticed once I started using the Protein Bond, my sets were lasting 3 to 4 weeks. This is a really good investment. Then I'm adding the nail primer, the No Lift nails that I got from Amazon. This is for maximum adhesion. Please be careful using this on your skin. If you get it on your skin, it will burn. So now you see that all the prep is done. I'm going to go in with my base coats, and then we're going to cure the base coat. The base coat is so that the polygel will have something to adhere to. Leave the sticky layer on the base coat because that's going to serve as like a sticker so that the polygel can stick to the base coat. Now we're getting into the slip solution. I use 70% isopropyl alcohol. You can use the slip solution or alcohol. 91% works well. It's just I have the 70 here right now. Now this is the new brush I was telling you about. This is Doper Than Your Nails. I recently ordered, and so this will be my first time using the brush. I love how thin it is. And this is the new hybrid polygel of hers that I've used as well in the shade Desert Rose. So I'm going to start off with my first bead of polygel, and I'm going to go in with the alcohol as my slip solution, and I'm going to dampen my brush and remove the excess liquid. I don't want to overfill the liquid onto the polygel because it will move it around too much. So you want to make sure that you're using just enough to form. And as you see, I'm just doing patting and sliding motions with this polygel until I form the shape of the almond stilettos that I'm going for today. Now, a few things that I did notice using this polygel. I typically use Macart, but this is much softer. It does not have sticky residue. I really like that about this polygel. It also forms rather easily and it smooths easily, so that's a good thing. It will put you in the mind of builder gel where it kind of lets gravity does its thing, so keep that in mind. I am going to keep the first 2 nails in real time so that you can see exactly how I shape my nails and how long it takes. I think on average it takes me about 5 minutes per nail because when I see something, I just try to fix it a million times. I'm a perfectionist. I try. But also, you're able to maneuver the polygel, which is the difference between acrylic. Acrylic air dries and it air dries fast, so you don't have as much time. With polygel, it hardens when you cure it. So you are allotted however much time that you need, and then when you cure it, it forms at that point. And then the access, I'm going to reuse the access. So yeah, you'll see me pick that up, and I'll reuse that for my second bead. After the first bead, I'm going to cure it, and then we'll come back for the second bead. Now, the second bead is pretty much going to be closer to my cuticle area so that I can get that as close to my cuticles as possible, and then continue to form my apex. And so I'm just doing padding, and I'm pushing the product more closer to my cuticle, and then I'm going to go around it and fill in the corners with the brush and get that to my liking. And then I'm going to go and smooth down the excess to the remaining tip of the nail so that I can form the shape that I want. Here you'll see me go back into my cuticle corners. I want to flatten that a little bit more to my liking, and I'm gently just doing soft patting motions to flatten that, not to flatten it so much that I don't have an apex, but just get it as close to my cuticle part as I can. Now I'm just doing a patting and dragging motion to drag down the excess polygel to the very tip of my nail. I like to do that part because it adds a secure foundation and it gives it another thicker layer for me. So I do like taking it all the way down to the tip of the nail. Now I'm just going over my sides to my liking to make sure that they are smooth as well. And with the polygel, you can go either up or down to make sure that your side walls are actually clear and clean. And that's what you see me doing here. I also remove the excess of the polygel at the end and slide up under the nail to make sure that there's no excess up under right before I go in and cure. Now that little excess bead, I'll just discard that. And now I'm going back in with some alcohol and just smoothing out any grooves that I see right before I cure, because once you cure, that is it, and that hardens the nail. So I'm just going in and cleaning up any little imperfections that I see right before I cure. So next I'm going with my first bead on my ring finger. I like to put the first bead on the tip of the nail where the nail tip meets the free edge of your real nail. I do that as a starting foundation, and then I pat and smooth and I drag that down so that it forms the nail shape. And forgive me, I have no idea why my hands were shaking. I guess I was extremely nervous. I don't know, but my hands were shaking throughout me doing my nails for some reason. I guess just trying to balance them up in the air. I don't know. Also, excuse my angle of my camera. I was trying to make sure that I stayed in focus. But there were times that I was off camera because, honey, I was trying to get in the crevices. I wanted to see the details of what I was doing. And as I get to forming the shape that I like, I will be removing the excess. It's the same steps as the first nail. And some people may say you're wasting product. You are and no, because you can reuse it, but I rather use too much product than not enough and have to add and reform and rebuild. Even though you can, it just takes a little bit longer to do that. So me adding more than enough and removing the excess is easier for me. And you'll see me going back in. I'm cleaning the sides and I'm just making sure it looks good before I cure it. This is also the second bead. I'm going back in and I'm doing the same thing. You'll see me start off with patting it, and then I am just thinning out the parts that I want closer to my cuticle as I go in the circle shape around my nail. And you'll see me pat and swipe over the apex once I've gotten it to my liking, and then I will form down the remaining nail. And as you can see, this is a pretty nude pink on my complexion. So I really, really love this. You could just go with this shade and put a clear coat when you're done. It is an everyday nude color, and it's pretty universal that it works with all shades. Now I'm just about done with forming the nail on the second bead to my liking. I am going to cure it, and then we'll move on to the remaining nails. Because the process is pretty much the same, I am going to speed through finishing adding polygels to the remaining nails. There are times that you can get air bubbles in your polygel. Like here is an air bubble that I'm looking at, and you're going to watch me pop the air bubble, and I'm going to use like my nail file, and I'm going to get the air bubble out, and then I'm going to reform the polygel so that there's no dents or indication, and I'm just going to reform it by patting it and smoothing and dragging it to my liking so that there's no air bubbles in the polygel. Here you are going to see a close-up of how I do my polygel to my cuticles. Just keep in mind, I am still new to polygel. I've only been doing it about a year and 5 months. So I am still tweaking my craft and getting to my groove and my rhythm. So I'm constantly changing things to find what works for me. And so far, this polygel helps me form my nails. I'm actually really liking this better than the McCart because it's easier to maneuver. So this is a really good brand. And now that we have all of my nails with my polygel, I'm gonna cure my thumb. And now here is how the finished polygel is looking so far. I'm actually going in and removing the sticky layer with a lint-free wipe and some alcohol so that I can begin filing and shaping the nails to my liking. This will clean up any excess or any other imperfections that I see, so that way we can have a smooth canvas before we do designs. And this is just the polygel cleaned up before shaping. Not too bad. Not too bad. Next, I'm going to grab my dust collector so that I can begin to shape my nails. I'm using a 100 and 180 nail grip, and I am pushing back my skin and removing any excess product by filing them away and also shaping the nails to my liking. I'm doing a more almond stiletto shape, and I'm filing underneath to remove any product that may have slipped underneath while I was curing. This is also going to help strengthen and give it that perfect shape that you want. So I'm going in on the sides to giving it a more narrow look. And I don't want it really, really pointy, but I want it definitely to go into that more almond style. I'll also use my filer to get more on the sides and shaping any other lumps on top that I may see. And I'm going to do the same on the remaining fingers. Next, I'm going to go in with my drill bit and I'll clean up the sides and sharpen that to make it smooth. I'm also using that drill bit to go in on the side walls and my cuticles. I'm using that because it is going to seal that in so that way there is no lifting. I do have this on a lower speed and I'm going on gently because this can cut you if you're going too fast or you're not paying attention as well. After I gone over the sidewalls and my cuticles, I'm going to take that drill bit and I'm going to go over the top of the nail. And that is just to give it that shape, make sure that my apex is to my liking, and remove any excess product that I may not have wanted or may have made it too thick. So that way it's going to remove just a little bit, but I don't want to do it to remove too much to thin the nail out, just enough to give it that smoother shape that I like. I'm going to speed this up because I'm doing the same on the remaining nails. I'm going in on my sidewalls, cleaning up my cuticles and sealing the remaining nails. Taking that same drill bit and I'm removing any excess to make the nail smoother on each nail. Now I'm going in with my brush and I'm going to remove all of the excess dust from the drill bit into the dust collector. Next, I'm going to go back in with that same 100 and 180 nail file. Now, this step is totally optional. You do not have to do this, but I wanted to go over any other lumps and imperfections that I see before I begin to buff it out. For me, it's an extra security step to make sure that my nails are as smooth to my liking. Next, I'm going to go in with a buffer and I'm going to buff away any other residual residue and make sure that it is as smooth as possible. This is the last step that I do before I begin to do any designs. And now I'm going to remove any dust particles back into the duster from the last buffing. Okay, and now this is how it's looking after it has been shaped and filed in dust. It looks pretty good, even though it looks ashy, but no, the nails, they look really good to my liking. I love the shape. So now we're going to go in and we're going to do design. Now, let me say this. I am not perfect at doing my designs or my lines. I really do not like doing designs. I do and I don't. I like them because they're cute. I try to do simple things so that I just won't stress myself out. I will end up stressing myself out if the design does not come out to my liking. So I'm still a beginner, as I stated. As I advance, I'll start doing more intricate designs. But as for right now, we're going to do something simple. I'm going in with my nail art brush and I'm using the nail art brush as it's thin to get my French tip to the shape that I like. Then I'm going to go in with the actual brush and I'm going to fill in the tip. Now, wherever sides that the thicker brush cannot get in, I'm going to go back in with my nail art brush that's thin so that it can get into the sides and the corners. And see, there I go, changing the shape, trying not to make it worse. I'm just trying to clean up and make the best curve as I possibly can. Now I'm going to do that on all the nails. And then I'm going to go back in and clean them up on the sides with my nail brush again. I don't have any tips or tricks when I'm doing my Frenchies. I hear people say just swipe, swipe, don't think about it. That's the easiest way to do it, so that if you overthink, you'll mess up. But clearly, I was overthinking and taking my time. But I did go off camera once I was done doing my Frenchies with a old brush with some acetone, and then I sharpened and made my Frenchies as crisp as I can to my liking. Now that the Frenchie part is pretty much done, I'm going to go in on my ring finger and I'm going to do my pink Valentine heart. So I take a dotting tool and I dip it in my polish and I just do 2 dots, and I make sure that they are a good enough size with a good amount of polish. I'm going to take my nail art brush and I'm going to drag down those circles and connect them in the V shape at the bottom. And then I'm going to go back in and fill the center and connect the top as much as I can. It's going to form that heart shape. Now you can do this and make the hearts as small or as big as you like. I really like doing little hearts like this. It's super, super cute and it's super, super easy. So I'm going to do 3 and I'm going to do it the same exact way. With the dotting tool, I'm going to take my brush again and I'm going to drag the bottom circle and it's going to connect like a V. And then I'm going to use that same brush and I'm just going to fill in the hearts so that you can see. Now that I have my hearts to my liking, I want to spruce it up. I'm going to add some rhinestones, and now I'm taking my rhinestones glue with a smaller dotting tool with silver rhinestones. I wanted to add a little razzle dazzle so that it wouldn't look so plain and that the hearts would pop. I'm going to put them right above my cuticle line, and I'm going to put them in the shape of a letter U. I took that same small dotting tool and the excess rhinestone glue and I just dabbed them all around the sides of my nails in that U shape so that the rhinestone can have something to adhere to on the nail as well as on the dotting tool. And then I'm going to take those rhinestones and I'm going to gently place them on there, pushing them into the desired shape that I like until all the rhinestones are fitted across my cuticle. Now, after adjusting the rhinestones to my liking, I'm going to cure that so that they'll stay. Next, I'm going to take my top coat and I'm going to apply the top coat all over the nails. Okay, so I wanted to add a bow, and I thought that that cute powder pink bow was going to be cute, but the more I looked at it, I didn't want that pink one. So instead of the pink one, I took that off and I changed it, and I like the iridescent better. So I used that same rhinestone glue with my tweezers, and I put a dab on the nail, then I placed the bow on top. And now you just see me adjusting the bow to my liking over the glue, making sure that it's in the proper position before I cure it. Because once I cure it, that is it. That bow is going to be locked in. And this is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell me if you will try this set for your Valentine's. Oh, and I did my non-dominant hand off camera. So now here is the final look. I hope that you guys really enjoyed the video. Until next time, bye beauties.